You're watching WBC Kids!
Know, our Vacation Bible School is coming up. I know a bunch of you are already signed up. If you haven't, you should ask your parents to sign you up today. During VBS, we are going to be giving out this shirt. The way that you can earn this shirt is by memorizing Psalms 100. So let's get started. Psalms 100, we're going to start with verse 1. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Can you repeat that? Make a joyful noise, be joyful unto the Lord, all ye lands. In verse 2 it says, serve the Lord with gladness. Not only serve him, but you do it with gladness. So serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. We all love singing, don't we? In verse 3, know ye that the Lord, he is God. It is he that hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. So let's go over that. 1, 2, and 3. One more time. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord, he is God. It is he that has made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture.
Hello, I am so excited to tell you the Bible story today. It comes from the Old Testament in 1 Kings, and it begins with a man named Elijah. And Elijah was not just any man. Elijah was a prophet of God. See, back in Elijah's time, the Bible had not been written, and the people didn't have that to read. So God would speak to a prophet and tell them what he wanted them to tell the people. And so not just anybody could be a prophet. They were selected by God. So during Elijah's time, there was a king that ruled Israel, and his name is King Ahab. The Bible tells us that he was a very wicked king. And he had a wife, and her name is Jezebel, and Queen Jezebel was also a very wicked person. She had brought in, and King Ahab and Jezebel both were worshiping false gods, especially Baal. And so the people of Israel had turned their back on God, and they had begun worshiping the false gods. And the Lord was not happy. It really, really saddened his heart. And Jezebel had not only brought in these false gods, she also was killing all of the prophets of God. And that was just so if anybody was teaching about God or anything like that, she wanted them done away with. So she was worshiping, and the people of Israel began worshiping a false idol. And I just brought today a bird, and the false idols were usually made of stone or wood, and they were usually very large, but I brought this bird, and this bird is one of my favorite birds. In my house, you're going to see birds all over the place, but this is one of my favorite because it's white and it's antiqued, and so I love this bird. But if I said to this bird, I love you so much, bird, and I have a horrible migraine headache. Can you please heal me? Well, the bird has eyes to see, but it can't see me. And the bird has a mouth to speak or to use, but it's not going to speak. And why is that? It's because it's false. It's not real. And so the people, they had turned their backs on God, who they had seen perform miracle after miracle. The Israelites were in slavery, and God delivered them out of that slavery. And he parted the Red Sea, and he sent manna from heaven, and he did all these miracles for the children of Israel. And yet, here they are, turning their back on God and worshiping the false idol. Well, God really, really did not like that. And he was very, very saddened by that. And so he told Elijah to go before the king and tell them that they were going to just worship one God. And this was going to be a challenge, that one altar was going to be made by the prophets of Baal and the other false gods, and the other one would be an altar for God. And so he told them is what they needed to do was to build this altar and put wood on top of it, and then they were to sacrifice a bull. In the Bible it tells us that they were to cut the bull up, but I couldn't do that. So that's what they were supposed to do. Well, Elijah is there, and there is 850 prophets for Baal. And for God, there's one prophet. Does that seem fair? Well, Elijah didn't think that it was unfair. He didn't need any more numbers than that. So the Bible tells us that it was time for the prophets of Baal to begin trying to get the fire for the sacrifice. See, they were to prepare everything, but the fire had to come from God. And so they worshiped Baal, and the Bible tells us that they were shouting out to Baal, 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 help us. Please answer our prayer. Show these people that you are God, that we should worship you. No light. Then they began to dance around. Baal, Baal, please, please, answer us. Please show everyone here that you are the true God. No. And so 2 hours goes by, 3 hours goes by. There's still no fire. And so Elijah says, hey, maybe your God is sleeping, or maybe he's deep in thought. Maybe you need to scream out louder so that Baal can hear you. And so that's what they did. They began to yell out, Baal, Baal, even louder. And there's no smoke. And so there's no spark there. There's nothing. And so the people began to cut themselves before Baal and, showed him that they were serious, that they needed him to light this fire. And it was their custom at that time to cut themselves. But there was no fire. And still, not even a smell of fire. Not a little spark. Nothing. This sacrifice to the god Baal was the exact same before they cried upon their God as now that they called upon their God for hours and hours and hours. And so now it is Elijah's turn. Now, do you think that Elijah was like, oh my goodness, I hope God comes for me and that he sends the fire. I really, really hope that he does this. No, there's no way that he did. And does the Bible say Elijah was not scared? No, but his actions tell us what he believed in God. So he began to make his altar. There's 12 stones on there that he placed for the 12 tribes of Israel. And he put the wood on there, And he put the cow on there, or the bull. And then what he did next is what shows us the faith that he has in God. So he tells the people to pour water on the sacrifice. Pour water? Water puts out fire. It doesn't start it up. But the people listened and they poured water on it. And there's a trench that was dug out for the water to go. And so he poured the water, and Elijah said, "Again, do it again." So the water is poured on again. And then Elijah said, "Do it a third time. Do it a third time." So they did it a third time. And the altar was saturated. The bowl was saturated. There was water all in the trench that is there. And so he doesn't scream. He doesn't yell. He certainly didn't cut himself before the gods. He just prayed a prayer. "Lord, show these people that you are God. Lord, allow them to see that you are true and living, and they need to turn their hearts back to you." And as soon as he prayed that, there was a boom in the sky, and fire came from the sky and went directly onto the sacrifice. The bull was burned up. The wood was burned up. The stones were burned up into dust, and all the water in the trench around that had been licked up by the fire. And the people, they got and they bowed down on their hands and knees, and they said, "God, you are the true and living God. God, you are the true and living God." They finally saw that Baal or any other false god was not going to help them. It was just wasted breath, but instead they needed to worship the Lord. And you know, boys and girls, we are going through a lot right now, especially with the corona. And so the coronavirus is kind of throwing water on us. And it's changing our church even, and that's more water. And it's ruining our getting together with friends and things like that. So it's more water. But boys and girls, remember that no matter how much water life pours on us, that God has the ability to take that and wipe it away, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. He's in control.